So last time, this is my second herbal presentation that I've done. I did one about 6 months ago, and we went over quite a bit of information. I'm going to do some different information this time, but if you ever want to go back and kind of go through the whole presentation, and I also have the PowerPoint, it's actually all on YouTube, on my Business Table Studios. And then Anita is also starting, she has now our own page, our own YouTube page, and hopefully we'll be putting everything on there too. I'll try to put this on there too. So last time I talked about a lot of different health benefits. I also kind of did a whole wide range of all different stuff you can do with herbs, from making tinctures to drying your herbs and oxymels, all different kinds of stuff. So it's kind of a good thing to go back and look at some of those. I also talked about the differences between kind of using herbs as traditional medicine and then also kind of compared to using pharmaceutical drugs and kind of the difference between those and how they're both very important. But I'm really focused on herbs a lot just because I want an overall healthier lifestyle and I'm trying to prevent diseases. So herbs are really great in trying to prevent diseases and keeping inflammation down in the body. So we're going to go through some of these benefits again. So herbs are very anti-inflammatory. And this is really great when we have so much inflammation in our bodies with so many things coming at us all the time. And all this inflammation is causing all these different diseases. 80% of diseases are caused by inflammation. So in most cases, like I kind of talked about before, trying a bunch of different herbs a lot tends to be safer than trying a lot of different pharmaceuticals, especially if you're dealing with some minor issues, headache, stuff that you want to just kind of try different herbs and see how they make you feel. A lot of times it's going to be safer than possibly trying a bunch of different pharmaceutical drugs that have, a lot of different side effects and then put you down this road on another drug to try to cover up that side effect, stuff like that. So all the phytochemicals in herbs also help reduce cell damage. Herbs are great at helping your cells just function better. They're loaded with vitamins and minerals. Some herbs are nervines that help nourish and support the central nervous system. They're really good at calming down your nervous system. And overall, they can help really improve your gut health. This is really important. This is really kind of having like this moment right now with gut health, especially with the whole Maha movement, and kind of in that same circle you have Paladin Casey Means. They just wrote the book Good Energy. So we really know like how important gut health is right now, and it's connected to everything in our body. Especially like it makes serotonin for your brain, and so we really want to try to promote the best gut health as possible. Being part of Weston Price, we really kind of know this too. We know it's like very important to ferment a lot of your foods, eating foods that are really good for just overall digestion and also feeding the good bacteria in your gut. So I think we're really on top of that with Weston Price kind of stuff. But then also I wanted to get this diagram. I got to watch one of those, they're like called master classes. You normally have to pay for them like online. I was on a flight recently and they had a master class on the gut microbiome, and it showed that basically, it was just a chart showing that people that have more of a traditional, they eat more traditionally, like over in other countries, that they have a very big, their diversity in their gut is much, much bigger than what we have in the US, which our gut diversity is very little because we're eating very processed foods. And we now know that basically the more diversity in your gut microbiome, that you are going to be able to fight off diseases a lot easier. You're going to just overall be a healthier person. So we need more things to really help our gut right now, and so herbs are really, really great for that. So this I pulled out of this book. It's a very simple diagram, and I recommended this book last time. I'm going to recommend it again. This is The Cellular Wellness Solution by Dr. Bill Rawls. If you are dealing with any kind of chronic disease, chronic illnesses, autoimmune diseases, and you really just want to find a way to have a healthier lifestyle and use herbs, that this has a lot of really great information in it. But I grabbed this just out of the book. And I just like looking at it because it just shows basically how long that we have been on Earth here and how our bodies have been so used to being hunters and gatherers for so long. And there's just a much smaller amount of time that we have been doing farming and eating more just mass-produced foods, and then a much smaller amount of time that we're eating very highly processed foods full of seed oil. So our bodies have not evolved to be able to deal with the food that we are now putting in our bodies. So in just the last 100 years, we are now consuming a 3,000% more fructose that our bodies just do not know what to do with. We are working more sedentary jobs. We are sleeping 25% less, and we are exposed to over 80,000 synthetic chemicals. So all of these things coming from us from all different angles is causing all this inflammation and making us really sick. So what's gone over in this Good Energy book, basically all of these things are connected to having metabolic diseases. So basically our bodies are not able to convert our food and drink into energy that we need to power the whole body. So this is causing all sorts of diseases in our body: depression, anxiety, infertility, insomnia, heart disease, erectile dysfunction, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancer, just to name a few. So we need healthy guts, and I very much often feel like herbs are kind of this missing element. We don't really have that connection with earth like we used to in growing our own food and stuff, so we need to get back to that. So herbs, the different way that herbs really help our gut, they're really good at supporting digestion. So a lot of herbs have digestive enzymes in them, so it really helps break down your food, and then you're better at absorbing the nutrients in your food. If you are eating really healthy but you don't have good gut health, you're not going to be able to absorb the nutrients from your food. So it's really important to first get it healthy. All right, and then second, provides prebiotics. It's really good at feeding the good bacteria in your gut, and at the same time suppressing the bad bacteria in your gut. There are anti-inflammatory properties in a lot of herbs. So, I mean, how many people do you know now that have Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis? We're dealing with so many anti-inflammatory bowel diseases right now. We have so much inflammation in the gut. So herbs help fight inflammation not just in the gut, but really all over the body too. So antimicrobial effects too. This also is helping fight the bad bacteria in your gut, pathogens in your gut, and also the overgrowth of yeast. So people have candida problems too, herbs can help fight off candida in your gut. Promoting gut motility, keeps things moving. This is going to help so you're not getting constipated, helps with gas. And then also it helps balance gut pH. Last time I talked about making oxymills. So another thing that's really, really good for balancing the pH in your gut is apple cider vinegar. So when you're making an oxymill, it's you're infusing herbs in apple cider vinegar and honey. So not only are you going to be getting all the benefits from the herbs that you're infusing in your oxymill, but also just taking a spoonful of that apple cider vinegar and that honey every day is really going to help balance the pH in your gut. When you have a balanced pH in your gut, you are going to have all those more healthy bacteria in your gut. It helps relieve stress when you're very stressed out. This is also causing the inflammation in the gut. So herbs are really good at relieving stress. And it also has a lot of gut healing properties. A lot of herbs are really good at repairing and strengthening the inner lining of the gut so that you don't have then other harmful substances that are leaking out of your gut, like the leaky gut. So it's going to help strengthen the gut lining. All right, so why do you want to grow them yourself? First of all, accessibility. It's so easy to be able to go out in your own yard when you're cooking, or you just want a cup of tea to be able to grab what you need. Cost effective. This is, to me, growing herbs is like the most cost effective way to really help your health. It can have a big impact on your health, and I mean, a lot of herbs are perennials. They come back every year, so you only got to plant them once. A lot of them you can grow by seed. Seeds are pretty cheap. And a lot of them are pretty easy to grow, so if you're like, I don't have a green thumb, a lot of herbs are weeds. So weeds grow pretty easy. So, and then they're also pest control. So if you're already gardening, you might as well be putting herbs in your garden because this really helps with a lot of pests. I grow tons of herbs in my garden, and knock on wood, I don't really have many pest problems. So I do have some cabbage worm problems, but I'm hoping to get better on that. And it's not like a devastating amount, but it's an annoying amount. So, and then stress reduction, like last time we talked about all the blue zones. And something a lot of these blue zones have in common too is a lot of them garden. And also you talk to a lot of older people, you meet somebody that's really healthy, it seems like a lot of times they garden. So not only are you eating the food in your garden that's going to be a lot healthier, but it's so good physically for you to garden. The older you get to, just the practicing of getting up and down constantly, so there's so many health benefits to gardening. And then connection to earth, which we are very much missing. People are not going outside anymore. Everyone's staying indoors so much. I also think this is so great if you have young kids, getting them involved. There's something I think that even just at a young age, kids are just attracted to trying to grow things, and they love being out in the garden. With my kids, we play this whole where you have to identify the herbs. So I'll go and like pick a bunch of leaves. I lay the leaves out in front of them, and then they have to use their 5 senses, and they love doing it. And they have to, name what herb it is, and then they do it to me. And they pick herbs for me. And then I'll make it tricky, and I'll do like all in the mint family. So I'll grab I'll grab mint, catnip, and like lemon balm. So the leaves look the same, but they feel different. They smell different. So yeah, it's a fun way to get them involved and get them outside more too. So I do a mixture. I love it when you can kind of put herbs in your landscaping too, so you can kind of double. You also get the beautiful visual of it, but you're also you get that whole edible landscaping, which I love. But this first picture here is actually how I have a corner of my garden too, exactly how I did it. I blocked it off just like that. So I do have a corner like that, full of herbs in my garden. But I like to kind of mix where I have all of mine. So I'm going to go into just like some of my top herbs that are very common, what I use them for, and kind of harvesting and stuff like that. So I talked about mint a little bit last time. This is like my most used herb, but it's too easy to grow. I started earlier this last time. Do not grow mint in your garden. It will destroy your garden and take over absolutely everything. I did not know this 7 years ago when I started gardening, and it took over my garden. But I hope that next year I can report, because I just did this. I read somewhere online that you can plant mint underneath your fruit trees, and it's supposed to help keep the pest away. And I'm like, that is genius, because I don't really want to spray like my apple trees and stuff, so that'd be awesome if that would really, really work. So what I did is I just took some like landscaping block. I made basically this big circle underneath my apple trees, and then I planted a whole bunch of mint underneath. But it's still, you need something to contain it, or it will just go into your grass and just, so hopefully the blocks will help, contain it. But hopefully our trees were really small yet last year, so I'm hoping this year we'll get apples, and I'll see if it really helps with the way the pest. But it's also, this is my go-to for any kind of digestion. If I have any kind of upset stomach, same with my kids, I go and grab some mint and make some tea. And this is, my definite go-to. Also helps to really soothe any kind of cramping, menstrual cramps too, but also like if a kid was vomiting and like that kind of spastic of your stomach contracting stuff, it really helps calm that down. And then headaches, it's cute. One time, I didn't really know that mint was like really good for headaches, and I was complaining like the season, the weather kept going up and down, and I was having just a headache like all day. My cute little son, he was 3 at the time, and he heard me complaining that I just had this headache that wouldn't go away. And he was like, "It's okay, Mommy. I'll go outside. I'll make you some tea." And he goes outside. He grabbed just mint, and he grabbed lemon thyme. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll make some tea. Drink it. I'm not kidding. Like 20 minutes later, he comes up to me. He's like, "How's your head feeling?" And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. My headache completely went away. I did not have a headache at all anymore, or the rest of the day. But it was so cute that, he heard a problem, and his solution was like, it's all right, I got some plants for this. So I love that. Basil. If you are already planting tomatoes in your garden, you might as well be planting basil. This is an amazing companion plant. They are an annual, so you do have to grow them every year, but they grow very easily. They bush out very fast. So when you're planting them in between your tomato plants, it really helps kind of shade the ground there. So it's helping kind of with all the weeds too, shading all of that. And there's a lot of gardeners that say it also makes your tomatoes sweeter too. I'm not really sure. I do plant them next to my tomatoes, but they're also antibacterial and good at treating nervous irritability, fatigue, depression, anxiety, insomnia. Also, again, really good for digestion and easing gas. My favorite thing for using basil for, of course, I'll harvest some when I'm making like spaghetti sauce and everything like that. But I really like, especially kind of the end of the season, I'll harvest a whole bunch of basil and I make a big batch of pesto. This is also the best way to kind of sneak in other greens too, such as dandelion greens is a great one because you can't taste it. There's so many health benefits to dandelion greens. I blend it all up in a blender and then I just put it in little mason jars and I put it straight in the freezer. You're not going to ever want to like process this. You don't want to put it like in a water bath or anything like that because it'll kill everything, all the good stuff. So just freeze it and you grab one out of the freezer when you need it. Like if I'm making pesto pizza, pesto pasta, or pesto crusted chicken or something like that, I'll just grab, one of the little containers and I use it like that throughout the year. Oh, and I should have mentioned with both like the mint and the basil, a lot of these you can kind of harvest them whenever, but for medicinal purposes, a lot of times you want to kind of get them before the flowers start coming on them. It's kind of true with a lot of plants. You want to harvest usually before they start flowering. But sometimes they'll get bitter too. Rosemary is one of my favorite, but this one is a little bit pickier than other herbs. This herb can be it's fussy. Sometimes it doesn't like to be wet. It doesn't like to be too dry. And here is an annual down south. People grow like rosemary hedges, which I think would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, this one I had a little bit more issues with getting as much rosemary as I would like because I go through a ton of rosemary. I cook with it a lot. I also, last time I mentioned my favorite tea, like everyday tea to make is rosemary, mint, and oregano. They drink this a lot in Sardinia, Italy, where they live very, very long. It's one of the blue zones. And this one is one that just really works for me. So it's a really good brain tonic. It improves concentration and memory. And this, I definitely think this works for me. If I drink a cup of tea that has rosemary in it, I feel like, because I have artist brain, my brain's like all over all the time, and it really just kind of helps me focus on what I'm doing at the time. And then it can also enhance cellular uptake of oxygen. It's really good for the circulatory system. Helps fight inflammation and good for digestion too. I find too, a lot of times it grows a little bit slower, so I was like, I don't want to cut from it. But rosemary, I do think it grows better in a lot of herbs. Keep cutting them. Cut your herbs. A lot of times you're scared because you don't want to take too much from it, but herbs really seem to like to be cut, and they just get bigger and stronger. Thyme is a great one because it's a perennial, it's a hardy perennial. It comes back every year, and it's also one that's a lot of people like for landscaping too. It's a really great filler, and it's kind of used as a ground cover. It kind of creeps a little bit. If you're using it for medicinal purposes though, because there's a lot of different kinds for landscaping that you can use, but you want to use garden thyme or lemon thyme. Mine is lemon thyme. Mine is exactly like this one, and I love lemon thyme. I love the smell of it. It's my favorite. And it's very pretty too. So this is my go-to for like cold and cough remedy. Anytime I ever feel like I might be getting a little sick, same with the kids, this is kind of my go-to to make some tea. It's really good at strengthening the immune system. It's a powerful disinfectant that can be used internally or externally, so it can be like you can make a wash basically out of it to help fight infection too. It's rich in antioxidants and it's antifungal too. So calendula is it's very easy to grow, but it is an annual, and you can very easily use the seeds again for the following year. So I forgot I was going to bring it. I make an ointment out of this. This is so good for calendula. Is amazing for all different kinds of skin issues. It's kind of the number one go-to for a lot of herbalists for any kind of skin issues. So it promotes cell repair and growth. It's really good for babies. So even when my kids were young, any kind of diaper rashes or anything like that, and still now, any kind of little bumps, bruises, anything, I use this ointment that I make. It's also one of the best herbs for cleansing and for nourishing your lymphatic system. So if you're using it as a moisturizer on your face, it gets the lymphatics, everything moving, draining down, put on your face and neck, helps with puffiness, stuff like that. So this is kind of the recipe I follow for making my calendula ointment. You can kind of, so you can change whatever herbs you do want to put in it, and it's really hard. So I put a cup of dried calendula, but like in my book that I got this from, it says 60 grams. When you dry calendula, it weighs like nothing. 60 grams would be crazy amount. So I mean, you can kind of just put as much herbs as you want, but I mean, do pack the more you put in, the better. So you definitely want to put a lot of herbs in, but I put a cup of dried calendula to basically a cup of olive oil. And that's also 350 grams of olive oil. And then you do this like in a double boiler. So you just basically want to get your olive oil warm. This just helps the infusing part go faster. You could do this even just like in a jar and put all your dried herbs in. You can use fresh herbs too. You just use a lot more if you're going to use fresh herbs. So during the summer when I make this, I use fresh, and then I dry my calendula through the winter so I can still make this through the winter. But when you are doing your double boiler, you're just keeping it warm. You could probably also do this like in a slow cooker. You do not ever want to like boil the olive oil. You don't want it to go rancid or anything like that. You're just keeping it really warm so it's infusing. After you infuse it, and you can do it for a few hours, just kind of keeping it warm on the burner. You're going to strain out all your calendula, and then you add 30 grams of beeswax. So the only thing that's really important about this recipe is how many grams of olive oil, the 350 grams of olive oil and the 30 grams of beeswax. If you want it to be this consistency, so this is like an ointment consistency. If you want it more solid, like a chapstick or something, then you're going to be using more beeswax. And then basically, after you add the beeswax, I pour it in a jar, and you want to do it before it sets because it'll start, firming up. And you can store it for at least 3 months. I mean, this stuff lasts a very long time. It never like smells bad or anything like that. It lasts a very long time, and it works wonders on everything. So chamomile, this is also a go-to for tea, also for my kids. This is one that's a lot of kids really like the flavor of this one too. It's an annual, but it is self-seeding, so it does tend to come back almost every year because it just kind of seeds itself really easily. It's a great anti-inflammatory, supports the nervous system, and helps with stress, aids in digestion, promotes sleep, and like I said, it's really good for kids, and it's tummies, and you can do a bath with it. I wanted to use this picture too because that's a lot of times how it is harvested, but you can do this kind of same thing when you're harvesting your garden, like with your hand. You just kind of scoop up and scoop the flowers off instead of picking each individual one. Next, lavender. This one I love. This is actually visually, I think, one of the prettiest herbs. So I also double mine as landscaping. I have my lavender in the front of my house in my landscaping. Just if you are putting the herbs in your landscaping, just make sure that this is not an area you're spraying. You don't want to eat the herbs that you're spraying. That would not be good. So this one is a perennial, but it comes back every year, but it does need a little bit of protection. I've killed lots of lavender when I had it out in my garden. It was just getting like beat by the wind, and it wasn't like covered at all. Now where I have it, it's protected a little bit more from the wind, and it just happens to be an area where like the dead leaves kind of gather around it, and it winterizes it. It makes it all nice and protected and healthy through the whole winter, and it comes back big and beautiful every year for me. So, but it's calms anxiety. It's a mild antidepressant, also good with headaches and migraines. It's an antibacterial, antifungal, and antiseptic, also good for digestion. You always want to pick lavender when it's still a bud. That's when it has the best medicinal purposes to it. I mean, you can use it when it flowers, but it's the best to use it when there's still little buds yet. Lemon balm is a really good mood lifter. This one's also a perennial. So this one's going to come back every year. And this is one that it's a great kind of filler. It could also be used as a landscaping. But it makes an amazing tea. This is one that also kids really like the flavor of too. It's really good for lifting your mood, fights nervous exhaustion, depression, grief, sadness, insomnia. So it's also a really great nighttime tea. Helps calm restless children, and it's a strong antiviral, especially against herpes and shingles virus. So anybody that also gets like cold sores and stuff, lemon balm is a great one for that. Echinacea. So a lot of people already grow this and don't even really realize how medicinal it is. Coneflower. It's absolutely beautiful, perennial. Also, they self-seed and kind of spread themselves too. But I personally, you can use the flower, and a lot of people use the roots too. I love using the flower. I'll dry the entire flower and then use the whole flower to make like a cup of tea. And this is really good for help strengthening your immune system. You can use the roots, but it has to be a little bit older plant, about a 2 or 3 year old plant, and then you can dig up some roots and dry the roots and use those too. But yes, it's very, very good. If you think that you're going to be getting sick, you're trying to fight off something, this echinacea is one you always want to go to. It's also an antifungal, antibacterial. It's really good for any kind of respiratory infections and colds and flu type stuff like that. The last one I have on here too is dandelions. I think I talked about them last time. People are so serious about killing all the dandelions, but I think there's a reason God put them everywhere. They are so good for you. The entire plant is edible. They're very, very good at detoxing. It's very good at cleaning your liver out, your kidneys out. So some people really like dandelion tea, and I will be honest, I hate dandelion tea. But some people do. Don't let that scare you. Some people really like dandelion tea, so you can just take the flowers and make tea from them. I love the greens, so I add the greens a lot to salads. Like I said before, I do it with my pesto. I also dry the leaves, and then I'll grind it all up, and I make little pills. It's a very good digestive enzyme. To take one of those like 5-10 minutes before you eat. It tells your body food's coming. It gets all the juices going. So I have this last one on here. I have not tried this, but I have this in one of my books, that the milky latex, when you like break the stem open, that milky latex can also help reduce pores. I've never tried this, but I thought it was interesting. So, but it says you do have to be kind of diligent with it. Do it like 2 or 3 times a day, where you just kind of keep adding that latex on there. So like if I had a kid with a wart, I would maybe try this and see if it would help. But so the last thing I have on here, I wish I would have a whole bunch of different herb stuff for you, but of course I'm like out of everything right now. You know, we're then to winter, so everything I dry I'm using up and stuff. But these are pills that I make all the time. So when it comes to fighting inflammation, the herbs that are talked about constantly is always turmeric and ginger. Those are so good at fighting inflammation in the body. And then moringa does not get talked about a lot. This is more like herb from China and stuff, but it's so good at being also an anti-inflammatory and loaded with vitamins and minerals. Some studies show that it's even stronger than turmeric too. And then black pepper is also to increase the absorption of the turmeric. So I do have some of these that are for sale today. When we do our market stuff, they're 15. But yeah, does anybody have any questions for me? Yes.
How many of your herbs do you, well, obviously some are perennials, but how many of them do you start in the house, or do you direct sell all of them?
So I direct sell most of everything. I just don't have the room to try to start it in the house. And then there is some plants that I will just buy every year. Like my basil plants, when I get my tomatoes and stuff, they always have basil right there too. I just buy the plants too. But I mean, some of it I'm just a little lazy, really. It's so much easier to just buy the plants. But I mean, I do have a lot of perennials and stuff that come back every year, and then I do just put some of the seeds straight in the ground in the spring. Yes.
Taylor, how do you dry your herbs?
So I just have a dehydrator, and it's not even a fancy one at all. Someday I hope to get a nice, real big one and stuff. But yeah, it's just a dehydrator. You can do it also in the oven. I find I've had some bad luck doing that because you can't control the heat as much, and if it gets a little too hot, it burns them. A dehydrator I think works a lot faster, and I think it's the best at preserving them, because you can also hang all your herbs upside down and just dry them in your house or anywhere that's real drier in the sun. But I think that when you do it in a dehydrator, it seems to keep all of its color. You're keeping a lot of that nutrients. It's drying it faster, and it's not overheating it. So that's my favorite way.
So what kind of mint do you grow? Like, is there best medicinal ones?
I'm glad you brought that up. So the mint will also cross-pollinate. I've tried to look that up before, and it seems like they all have a lot of health benefits, because there's a ton of different mint. So they also cross-pollinate. So I also did this, and I can't even tell you exactly what mint I have in my garden, because if you plant the different kinds next to each other, they all cross-pollinate, and then it's just all like one type. Like, so I think at one point it was like a pineapple mint, like a real sweet mint, and just a regular peppermint, and then I had like a chocolate mint. So I think mine are all just like combined now. It tastes really good, I can tell you that. Yeah, I'm not sure if one is really more medicinal than the other, but sorry, I can't answer that exactly. Anything else? Yes.
When you're making a cup of tea, like you go out and you grab mint, and then how are you, like you put that in, you
Yeah, so last time too,
strain
I did a
it?
demonstration. I just showed how to do it, but it's very, very simple. You're just heating up water almost to a boil. You're going to pour, like I wish I had brought it, but I have a cup that's just like a self-serving cup where you have kind of your infuser. So I put my leaves and everything that's in there. So I use fresh leaves in the summer, dried leaves in the winter for whatever I dry. And you're just pouring your hot water over there. You're gonna let it steep for like 10-15 minutes. And then the only herbs that you have to be really kind of cautious of how long, you don't want to be using too hot of water or too long is like green tea. But when you're using kind of all of these like garden herbs and stuff, usually 10-15 minutes to let it steep, and then you just pull out your herbs. Drink it. But yeah, if you want to go back, it is on that video stuff that I showed a demonstration too. So. And also we'll keep moving. So I know we got some other great speakers. You ready? Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.